Our theme this month is What If? And the topic today, you had a bank of your own. This month's series, What If, is designed to call on the tendency that most of us have to understand limitlessness intellectually and to challenge us into expanding that into inviting limitlessness to show up in our everyday life, in our everyday use. Last week we talked about how that could show up in our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being with what if you had health assurance. And today I want to propose how that can show up in your financial affairs. So what do we do with our money? Limitlessness. How does that feel? Limitlessness. What if you had seemingly limitless amounts of money? Kind of like having a bank of your own. And what if you had one or more investors who kept putting money into your bank? So your bank accounts kept getting bigger and bigger. That probably would make you feel pretty comfortable. Pretty secure, yes? Sure. But what if you didn't use your money? What if you just left it in the vault, in safe deposit boxes, or buried it in the floor, or like my father used to do, behind the light fixture in the wall? What if he was an electrician? Yeah. What if instead of investing your money in a variety of assets and enriching your investors, you let it sit inactively? What if instead of using it to enrich your own life and the lives of others with possessions and with good works, what if you held it? Took it out of circulation, so to speak, maybe even worried about it. Because when money sits idle, the value of it fluctuates. And it may not be as valuable later on as it was when it went into the bank. But in the meantime, we're doing nothing with it to enrich our lives or anyone else's. So before you begin to think this is just a boring lesson on Economics 101, let's take a step further. What if, when you decided to charter this bank of yours, you named it the Bank of Unlimited Possibilities? And you selected as one of your officers an operations manager of POD. POD. Then, when your board of directors was in place, you selected as the chair of that group a genius of development. So now your core team is the genius of development, G-O-D, and the operations manager who is in charge of prayer on demand. P-O-D. Well now, you not only have unlimited possibilities, you have a team to support you in carrying that out. You have God, that genius of development that knows an unlimited number of ways to create and expand prosperity. And you have an operating spiritual mind prayer practitioner whose ongoing assignment is to know the truth, is to see that truth, and when necessary, to remind you of that truth. Well, don't you know? We all have a bank of unlimited possibilities. We all have the availability of the genius of development, G-O-D, and we all have opportunities to have on our side and at our beck and call the services of a prayer practitioner, a POD. For those of you who remember the series I did back a while ago, it's been maybe 6 months ago, titled Prosperity Plus, there was one Sunday when I talked about ka-ching thinking. Any of you remember ka-ching? Yeah. Ka-ching thinking is recognizing that every thought we have registers in our subconscious, in the collective consciousness of humanity, and in the universal consciousness. So whether each deposit in consciousness is a positive, expansive, one, ka-ching, or a negative, restrictive, one, ka-ching, they both get recorded. So which ones do we want to grow? Which ones do we want to nurture? Which ones do we want to circulate? Well, duh. We all know the answer to those questions. So what if the genius of development, GOD, was elected chairman of the board in every bank, every savings and loan, and credit union? What a capital idea, pun intended. What if in the foyer of every financial institution there was a POD desk, a prayer development individual, and there, available to customers and loan officers alike, was a prayer practitioner on demand? What if before every financial transaction was started or completed, someone skilled in the art, the act, and the science of mental healing was available and ready to speak the truth for those who were parties to that transaction? In fact, what if whatever kind of financial transaction any of us took part in was preceded by affirmative prayer? Spiritual mind treatment. After all, money is simply God in action, a creative flow, currency, if you will, of divine activity. It has no separate consciousness of its own. It's how it's used. And how it's used is what's flowing by means of us from this creative source. So money is an extension of the attitudes, the thoughts, the feelings of the person who uses it. Reverend Karen Wolfson, who practices in a Center for Spiritual Living in the state of Florida, in an article entitled Spiritual Economics, which appeared in Creative Thought magazine back a couple years ago, says, we don't need money as much as money needs us. It needs our creativity. It needs our vision. It needs our ideas. These are the things that cause money to multiply. Left to its own devices, it just stays in the wall behind the electrical outlet and doesn't do anything. So what if each one of us, right here, right now, decided to commit our genius of development, God by means of us, and our prayer practitioner on demand, our pod? See, you can use these acronyms as you choose. To use our genius of development and our prayer practitioner on demand during and after every one of our own financial transactions. We could do that, right? We can do that, right? Let's do that. And then, what if each one of us would be available to support others in doing the same thing? To hold the high watch, if you will, for family, friends, co-workers, even perfect strangers, to find their genius of development and their spiritual practitioner in all their financial transactions as well. In fact, what if everybody had a bank of unlimited possibilities of their own? And so it is.
And so it is.